Okay, here's a short video to help my critical race theory group prepare for their presentation at the Social Studies Fair tomorrow. Now, when the judges first see your presentation, they're going to have to ask, who exactly was this Derek Bell? The easy way to sum this answer up is to say that he's the guy who led the fight for racial equality after the Civil Rights Movement. And then we're going to have to talk a little bit about the Civil Rights Movement. You see, before that movement, African Americans were legally discriminated against, meaning that the law allowed for Africans to be kept out of opportunities that would have allowed them to achieve the American dream. In other words, before the Civil Rights Movement, racism was legal. In response to this, groups of people all over the nation came together to fight. They took to the streets and brought attention to the plight of minorities in America. Not just African Americans, but particularly African Americans. And this was, of course, led by the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They fought, they sacrificed, and they were successful. At the end of that movement in 1968, it became illegal all over the nation to discriminate against anyone based upon race, also religion and sex. After civil rights, after that movement, the racism was illegal. But a strange thing happened after the civil rights movement. The dominant population, that is Caucasian Americans, seemed to be doing fantastic. But for African Americans, it was a completely different story. Unemployment rates were high. People struggled with the public education system. And laws were created that resulted in the incarceration of large numbers of African American citizens. You see, although racism was no longer legal, minorities were still disadvantaged. In response to this, an Ivy League educated law professor by the name of Derek Bell decided to do something about this. He began to teach his students at Harvard Law School about the racism that was not so easy to see. A modern type of racism that was not necessarily legal, but still resulted in inequalities for minority groups. As a law professor, he focused on how these inequalities could be fought in the courthouse. He said that the courtroom is the site for these battles against modern racism. Now, once again, what is modern racism? Modern racism includes practices in law, institutions like schools and society that oppress minority groups. You can't always see exactly what it is that's oppressing a group, but you can observe that a group is certainly being oppressed. He wrote many books and articles to describe this and educate scholars and lawyers about this problem and how to fight it. His most famous book being, of course, Faces at the Bottom of the Well, a book of fictional stories that he used to teach people how to understand racism. His teachings and his writings have resulted in a field of study called critical race theory that has educated and empowered a new generation of educators, lawyers, and activists to continue fighting for true racial equality. That is who Derek Bell was and what his contribution was to critical race theory. He passed away last year in 2001, but his dream carries on.